Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Today we're taking a look at this British pattern long sea service flintlock pistol. The basic sea service pattern was used from the mid 18th century into the early 19th century by the Royal Navy around the globe, including during the French and Indian War, the American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Napoleonic Wars. Tower is marked at the tail of the lock. A crown/GR royal cipher and crown/broad arrow is marked at the center of the lock, and a broad arrow/BO is stamped at the top of the wrist. The barrel measures 12 inches long. It is fully round and measures at a 56 caliber. At our pommel here, you see we have a brass cap. Behind our barrel tang here, we have a beaver tail carving, very similar to that we see in the British Brown Bess muskets and their variety of patterns through the years. We have a single tang screw here holding our tang and barrel in place, connecting on the underside. I want to make note of the hardware finish on the iron pieces here. At least you can see that they're still very bright. We know through military ordnance and ordnance books from the time that despite the corrosive properties of black powder in the black powder era for the militaries and commanding officers often required, or more often than not really, required that military service members clean and maintain and polish their arms almost daily to keep everything at a nice bright finish. Even though this pistol is many years at this point away from its military service, you can see that the service members that carried this arm did their job in keeping this a nice bright polish. For our lock, we have a British pattern lock. We have Tower stamped here at the rear, and we have our crown and GR stamped into the center just under our pan and frizzen assembly here. Our cock or hammer is a military pattern, simplistic in its design but functional and durable, like we see with all of these lock components. As I've mentioned before, when we're discussing black powder and especially flintlock era military arms, they weren't as unreliable as they are characterized to be today. Many times the manufacturing of these locks in particular and the arms around them had requirements to be able to fire between 30 and 40 shots without a hang or misfire to be accepted into the military service. An interesting detail here, both our top and bottom jaw have teeth cut into them to better hold our leather and flint. Our jaw screw here has a slot along the top for a turn screw or screwdriver to tighten the jaw onto the flint, but we also have a hole through the top of this screw so that a pin or wire tool could be inserted through this hole to further tighten down our jaw and flint, again doing its best to make this a reliable arm in the heat of battle by maintaining the placement of that flint. The underside of our pan are characteristically round, as they should be, and our frizzen is large and wide, shows some signs of wear. We have some slightly decorative, I would say, border engraving around our hammer screw here, at our lock tail, and at the front of the lock plate, terminating with our front frizzen spring here. On the underside here, you can see we have a brass trigger guard that is rounded. We do have a decorative English motif here at the front. What's interesting is we see this same motif on other British military service arms, as well as some civilian arms from the black powder and flintlock eras. We have a single trigger inside of our trigger guard. Forward of the trigger, it looks like we have a trigger plate, but behind our trigger, we don't have any trigger plate here. We have a simple slot in the wood stock to allow our trigger to travel. Forward of our lock and our lock mortise here, you can see we have several barrel pins holding our smoothbore round barrel to the stock. On the underside of our forestock here, you can see we do not have an entry pipe here protecting our wood from our ramrod. We simply have a ramrod channel drilled into the stock. But we do have a trumpet-shaped brass ramrod pipe here to align our ramrod with the channel when loading or unloading. Forward of our front ramrod pipe here, you can see we do not have any kind of nose cap or protection for this end grain. What we do have here, instead of a nose cap, is we have a divot in our stock here, giving us just enough room to get a thumb and finger around our ramrod so that we can successfully pull it from the stock and load our pistol. Taking a look at the top of the pistol, like I said, we have our rectangular barrel tang. We can see a small crown stamped into the rear of our tang here, just behind our tang bolt. On the side plate side of this pistol, we get a little bit more interesting. We have a brass side plate here held in with our 2 lock bolts. These are rounded flat lock bolts with a single slot in them. We have an ornamental brass side plate here with a subtle curve and tail back here at the end. There's no engraving visible on our brass side plate. On top of that brass side plate though, you can see we have this very nice belt hook here, as I would call it, or clip perhaps, depending on who you're talking to and their expertise. This clip or hook is held on with our top center lock bolt, and that's the only connection I can see this hook has with the pistol. You can see here we have a little bit of wiggle in that hook, but there's enough pressure applied with this single bolt going through to our lock plate on the other side to keep this hook from spinning or rotating on the pistol. To support the extreme length at the front of the hook, we have a small paddle with an ornate curl back here at the end. Keeping so, we have some pressure applied to the side plate area of the stock when and if this hook is flexed outward. The hook or clip itself also has a small crown stamp here in this rear lobe. The metal finish on this piece is still very high quality in my opinion, considering its age. We do see some wear, however, in the grip with some dings and scratches, and our brass pommel cap here shows some signs of wear from over the years. Overall though, considering this piece's age, I think it's a wonderful example of this pattern British military service pistol. I'd like to thank the Rock Island Auction Company for giving me the opportunity to share this muzzle-loading arm with you here today. If you'd like to learn more about this and any other antique arms, I encourage you to visit the Rock Island Auction Company social media pages to learn more. Once again, I'm Ethan. I love muzzle-loading. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.